How's it going, guys? Welcome to Audio Addiction. We have Of Virtue with us. It's been a long time. I know, guys. I've been trying to get him on, and this has finally happened. But obviously, you can say his name and what he does in the band.
My name is Damon. I sing, play guitar, and kind of the jack of all trades. So
There we go.
glad to be
Listen,
back.
the best member, Tyler. I'm
The best one.
upset. I'm upset you did not come on again. I'm a little hurt. You know, I got to meet Damon in person the last time since we've chatted. So I listen, Tyler. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. For us to actually meet in person. So hopefully, a Virtue will be out touring soon. But wanted to ask Damon. Obviously, it's been a while since I've had you on. I believe the last time you guys had just released or were about to release What Defined You, and that came out in 2019. And a lot has changed since the last time I had you on. So how has that change been? Because I know you also recently signed to a Rising Empires. You had an EP that dropped back last year in 2022. So how has that process been working with a Rising Empire and all the stuff with OV right now?
Oh, well, again, thank you for having me back on.
Oh,
It's
no
been a
problem.
pleasure. Long time no see. Like I said, we'll see each other in person here pretty soon. So not too worried about that. As far as how everything else has been going, though, I mean, I would say it's probably been the smoothest it's been in quite a while. It's the busiest we've been, despite not really playing that many shows. Like we did some stuff last year as COVID, kind of started to subside a little bit more.
Hmm.
Bands really started getting back out and touring. For us, it's kind of just been more of a meticulous grind, like really honing in on, working on the next project that we've had. You mentioned the EP. It was like we kind of felt like with the time, I would say time off, but the break that was given to us and given to everybody, it's like how can we best take advantage of this?
Hmm.
And it's like look at everything that we were doing beforehand, what was working, what wasn't, or what potentially we could have gotten burnt out on. And it's called go back to the drawing board, really push it in every single way possible. And I think the results are starting to speak for themselves. You know what I mean? It's like not to ever say anything bad about our older music, but it's like you're kind of learning on the fly. We were literally writing songs and then going right on tour to
Oh, wow.
test those songs. Yeah, that's a little known fact. Like with What Defines You, it's like we recorded that record in probably three different bits, and each time it was like, okay, guys, you're going on the road for 2 months or 3 months,
Oh,
and then we had a chance to experiment and try those out in front of audiences, try that out.
hmm.
This time, it's like we can take all of that information and just apply it right from the get go, along with maybe trying some things that we haven't tried before, or just you know throwing stuff against the wall. COVID, it also presented an interesting opportunity for us where we have a lot of friends, you included, where it's like,
Oh, thank you.
hey, bouncing ideas off of people, working with people that are outside of our genre. I have friends that do hip hop or, pop music or alternative country. And it's called, you know, don't just limit yourself to being a quote unquote, metal band just for the sake of like what it looks like or what you think that you should be. And it's like, that's kind of, I feel like, been the diversity is unlike anything that I've seen really in this genre in quite a while. And it's kind of just awesome to be a part of it and then to be a bigger part of it moving forward now that OV's getting back into, the big touring monster. So
Yeah, I saw you
all in
guys.
all,
I
everything's been
saw you guys
pretty
going
decent.
out of the country. You'll be doing that in a couple months, which kudos. Just seems like that whole bill is insane. So, obviously, best of luck to you guys doing that. I'm sure you're equally excited, though. I know you tour a lot with. You're also in the for the Fallen Dreams as well. So I feel like anytime I see Damon post, it's like I'm out on tour again. Come say what's up, and it's cool. So I always love that. So the man does not stop. So I love that. But I did check out the Sinner EP. Funnily enough, I think one of your parents had like commented on Anxiety, and I said, should I check out the EP?" And she was like, "I'm pretty sure it was your mother, so shout outs to Mama Tate." But
Yes.
she was like, "You should check the whole EP out." And I was like, "Oh man, I should do that." And then I went and listened to it because, I was like, I should just give it all a listen. And I went on to Rising Empire, just checked out the entire EP, and I was like, this is so much different from what defines you. And and I really enjoyed that album. And I think you can tell the growth over the past couple years, and really kind of honing in on the sound that you guys have created, but not allowing it to limit you in any way. So I really appreciate that. I went back and listened to Sinner just before we hopped on because I wanted to relive that song again. And I was like, man, the hooks on this so good. And then more recently, I checked out both Cannibals and Anxiety, and I was like, these are also very different and very out there as well. I really enjoyed Anxiety. I feel like that one plays a little bit more to what I really love about like metalcore music, but I also have to give you a lot of credit for Cannibals because that was one that I was like, I don't know if I'm like really feeling this one as much, but I think as I've kind of grown and listened to it more and more, I'm like, this is really good. And also, I just like can't watch the music video because I'm deathly afraid of scary shit. So I feel like for me, I'm just like minimize that screen, but the song's still good. So all of you can call me, terrible names in the comments, but I can't, that shit bothers me. So I just listen to the music, but I would say the musicality of it is really sick. So
Oh, you're good. Trust me, you're coming. This is you're talking to a person that won't go into haunted houses. Like
well, then
the
why'd you
last time.
agree? I thought it was funny you agreed to do the music video then if you knew that's where it was going.
It's something having to do with like I do like scary stuff. Like I like horror. I like gore. I like all that kind of stuff. But there's something about like I think it's more of a control thing. When I know that I'm watching a movie or watching a television show or anything else, like I know that it's not real. And something about going into like an environment like that where somebody can like scare you or like jump out at you. Because the last time I was in there, I punched a dude in the face. Let's just be real. Yeah, I got kicked out of a haunted house. Ladies and gentlemen. So
Oh.
it didn't work out too well for me. So I don't know. My fight or flight is too strong for that. But I like being scared. Just I guess in a controlled manner, not where somebody could potentially jump out at me. So
Don't put Damon and I in a haunted house situation. I feel like we would definitely not be doing so hot in that sort of situation. So I had to agree with you on
oh no.
that, but I feel like I'm even more so even further out. I'm just like, don't show me that shit. I don't want to see it. I don't know. I just not about it. But the I will have to give it credit for where credit is due. The actual like music video itself was very well done, and salutes to whoever did it. I want to give him credit, though I personally didn't like it. I don't want my bias to show for not checking out the music video. So should still watch it if you enjoy like The Walking Dead or The Last of Us. Then you'll enjoy the music video certainly. Um, but yeah, I'm very excited to see what's going to be coming next. I imagine you guys have some new songs cooking. But I wanted to know how far along that process is because it seems like you guys have been releasing, you released two singles. So I feel like, I don't know if the path is just to be releasing more singles and just kind of having this nice, like, trickle of new music coming out, or if something bigger is a little bit along the pipeline here.
We definitely have something bigger in the pipeline for now. It just kind of works to our advantage with singles because it allows us to kind of put our maximum resource and effort behind each one of them. Like we can kind of start telling the story of the eventual thing that, it is going to come. So that's like a little nugget. But the cool thing is like, we're a smaller band and, maybe some people want to hear this, maybe they don't, but it's kind of the truth of the situation is that a lot of smaller bands, middle-sized bands, this is the most economic way to do things. We don't have the largest budgets in the world
Sure.
from
Yeah.
anybody. And let's be real, it's like if nobody's clamoring for, a 12 song, 14 song album, we would be doing ourselves an injustice by just putting it out there and hoping it does something. Where instead we can take our time, craft some singles, craft an EP or two, if we want to put out a larger chunk of music at one time.
Hmm.
And then again, kind of tell the story, see how people react. Because that's the other thing, kind of similar to what I was saying with what defines you. It's like when we were going straight from the studio to the stage and seeing how those songs work. In this sense, it's like, okay, we want to be able to tell a little bit more of a story,
Sure.
cohesively, but start to line everything up. And then that way, again, we can mess around with more, some social media. We can have some cool little games and tips and tricks, some merchandise, and kind of just make it a fun thing instead of trying to concentrate all of it into just one drop and that's it. Because unfortunately, too, I mean, I'm guilty of this nowadays. The attention span is a little small.
That's
There,
fair.
there's
Yeah.
there's so much going on. It's whether it's again, it's TikTok, it's Instagram, it's your everyday life. You might have a family and kids and whatever else, and it's like if what we do only occupies this much space one time and one time only, that's not good. But if we can just drip it in there here and there, where you're like, oh, I remember I heard Sinner, or oh, I heard Cold Blooded. I heard anxiety, and it's like eventually it starts to kind of catch on where somebody kind of keeps just knocking on your door, like, "Hey, we're still here. Hey, hello," and then eventually you got to open it.
That's I feel that, because I ironically enough had this conversation with shouts to my buddy Chris. He's in a band called Soft Spoken. Go check him out. But had this conversation about this like literally today, and he was posting about how like bands, the cycle for bands right now is not albums. Like the album is kind of dead unless you're like me. I love albums because I kind of like seeing the whole progression of from start to finish. How does the band kind of do that? Again, that's speaking probably more so to my age. I'm 30, so I feel like for me, those are the things that I like. I understand that is probably not the best way to look at it. I'm also, in social media, so I see it. I know an EP, a single, those are going to garner more of that attention. So I feel like conflicted in some ways because I always love when bands do a full length, and I always am like really upset when I feel like a band doesn't do a full length. But I also like the social media side of me is like, I get why they're doing it because it's going to generate more buzz and hopefully if you guys haven't checked out of Richie, I mean, you should definitely go do that anyway because they're great and I love them very dearly. But I do feel like the consistency of what you guys are putting out and the quality of what you guys are putting out is just great. I think that both Anxiety and Cannibals, like production wise, 10 out of 10, really liked it. It had that sort of energy that I almost felt was kind of lacking in what defined you and just kind of again going through that process of listening to your stuff in 2019 till right now. It's such a cool progression. I think there's still things that I can enjoy as someone who is maybe more of a full length guy. I think I can see the progression of you starting out in 2019 and seeing that changeover. So I still think there's that progression to be had, though it is a little bit, sporadic and here and there. I still think you can kind of get the full picture. So, I'm gonna be a salty old man a little bit about the albums, but I respect what you guys are doing nonetheless. So keep releasing whatever music. I mean, I'm certainly, excited to see what's next. But the good follow-up question, Damon, for people who maybe aren't familiar with Up Virtue and are checking this video out, what song would you recommend to a new listener check out first to kind of give them an idea, a vibe of what you do?
Ooh, oh man, that's a tricky one because what we've noticed, and this is kind of since we've put Sinner out, is like we've attracted a whole different audience with
Oh, nice. Okay.
that song and that EP, and it's very noticeable. Where it's like I don't want to say less of like a core style crowd, but it's definitely like the shows that we've played, and you know, it's definitely more of like a rock crowd. It's a
Oh,
more
cool. Okay.
generalized music listening. Like people just go there. They don't really. I would say they're not as like knowledgeable. Like they haven't gone as far into it. It's like it kind of reminds me of when I was younger, or like both of us. It's like what were some of the first bands that you got into? Where whether it be for me, it was like you know, there was the new metal stuff, and then when I started getting into like this kind of music, it's like Kill Switch Engage and As I Lay Dying
Ooh, yeah.
and Misery Signals and like kind of like the gateway bands. And it almost kind of feels like that EP has kind of had that effect where people that maybe they've known I've played in bands all my life,
Yeah.
or doing touring, doing this and that. They go, "Oh, you guys have that kind of stuff in your bag." I'm like,
You're like,
"Okay,
where have you
I
been?
But the thing is like the me in the past, I wouldn't have understood that until you kind of take a step back and you realize,
Yeah,
songs like an anxiety or hypocrite for that matter, like they're heavier. They're going to be that's more of like the bag of like when you're playing live and you get that energy rush. But then you can dial it back and have some other dynamics and everything else that appeal to a much wider audience.
sure. Yeah.
And it kind of, I don't want to say it wasn't the intended thing to do. It just kind of worked out that way. And it's like, so to kind of like the long winded way of answering your question, I would probably go with Sinner. That might be
Ooh,
the
okay.
first thing where it's like, yeah, like see what if you're feeling that, and honestly, I'd probably just plug the whole EP in general because at that point, it's like you kind of get a little bit of every get some of like the weird pop kind of
Hmm.
rock stuff with that song. You do get an ass beater with Hypocrite, which is kind of
Yeah,
funny because again, a lot of these people that we've played for, it's like we are their kind of like first introduction into that
yeah.
style of music. Where they go beyond that is completely up to them. They could go down a path of listening to like Brand of Sacrifice or something, and like, but it's again like like I talked to Tyler, and it's like We Came as Romans was a band like that for him, where it's like they introduced him to a completely different world of music beyond just them. So I'd probably start with that. We'll just call it Sinner EP. We'll just start with that.
I love that because I think, and I want to say ironically enough, I'll give a shout outs to Tyler because not no joke, I just got I just got both of these in the mail. This was unintentional, but it worked out. So shout outs to We Came as Romans. But yeah, no, I agree with that a lot. I'd actually probably say Sinner is a fantastic choice. Then again, I know I did plug Anxiety, but like that one to me, again, I'm been in the scene for eons now at this point. So like for me, like that's what I like. Though listening to Sinner again, I was like, okay, if I was new and I really wanted to get into like heavier bands, more like kind of hard rock, and just like maybe I liked rock music or like, am familiar with it, grew up maybe listening to like classic rock or something like that, and just want to find something a little bit heavier. I think I would agree Sinner is probably the best one because it kind of combines like a little bit of elements of pop music. There is definitely a great kind of rock feel to it. And I think there's just like tonality wise too, you can kind of tell like you're getting more into that sort of heavier genre of music, but isn't quite there. As you mentioned, I think you guys are I would say you're very much a quintessential gateway band, and that's not to discount your music at all, but like
Oh
I
no, that's
I
a perfect compliment, man.
okay, thank you. Yeah.
It's a
I I
perfect compliment.
I feel like you guys hit that perfect stride point of like I could show you to like my parents and they would be like, "Oh, cool. Some cool like rock music." But then like I could also show it to my sister who like is kind of more like not fully into metal music like I am, but like I could show it to her and she'd be like, "Oh, I really like this band. Like these guys are sick. I'd add them to my playlist 100%." So I feel like you have that sort of quality where you're almost like a chameleon in a way where you have some songs that you could be like, as you said, you got some like ass beater songs in there where like, especially if you go into more of the back catalog, there are some like really heavy songs that I'm like two thumbs
Oh
up.
yeah.
This is my vibe. But also at the same point, you got songs like Cannibal, you got songs like Sinner, that are a little bit more in that kind of like fringe where it's like, all right, you have some like hard rock moments, you have maybe some metalcore moments, you have some sing along moments, which I feel like if you're at a rock show, you gotta love those moments. But
Mhm.
you guys kind of fill the entire gambit of what I imagine kind of a good metalcore band to do. So you kind of cover all the bases, which can't complain. I love a good
No,
band that brings the variety. So you guys kill it.
I appreciate that, man. Like I said, we just at the end of the day, it kind of encompasses all the stuff that we love to do. And it's like, I think you hit it on the head with the term like chameleon. It's like, especially like when we go and play some of these festivals that we're going to do in Europe.
Hmm.
It's like we're going to have sometimes you're going to have 20 minutes. You're going to get up there and you're going to throw in Anxiety and Hypocrite and Surrounded and a few other just fast bangers because you're like, all right, cool, we're just going to get in, knock
Pull the
this out of the
energy
park.
out. Yeah.
Exactly, get out. But then on the flip side, it's like we're going to have headline club dates and everything else. So that's when we can start dipping our toes into more of like we can have the mood with the lights and really kind of set like an entire, scene for whatever we're going to do. And it's like being able to touch all of those notes for me and the rest of the guys, I can speak for them as well. It's like the bands that are killing it right now, outside of maybe a couple outliers, and even those ones, they still have some, dynamism to them. It's like you're able to touch on all of those feel. You have something that gets you in your feels.
Sure.
You
Yeah.
have something that you want to circle pit to. You have something you want to sing along to, and then at the end of the day, it's like you just have that high energy. Just let's all just have fun, rip it, mosh, do whatever you want to do. And if you can kind of be that one-stop shop, then you can set yourself up for any kind of tour or any kind of opportunity, really.
Yeah, I also think it's a level of diversity. I don't like I've for me like I don't want to listen to the same album. Like, I don't I like if I'm listening to a band, I want to know that they're evolving, they're changing, they're trying to do different things. That's what like continues for me to like kind of really enjoy what they do. Like, and especially I think the biggest key component is when I see a band live, like I want them to enjoy what they're writing or doing. Like I think that is the biggest compliment that could be paid to anybody's music is if I see them on stage and they're having a good time and maybe the genre isn't particularly what I am looking for or something like that. If I know that they're having a good time playing live and doing what they want to do, that like to me is big big kudos and I'd imagine haven't seen a Virtue yet, but again hoping to see you guys live at some point so I can be fully immersed in what you guys do. So very excited and hopefully some US dates. I know you guys are going international, which is so sick. But I don't want you to forget about me. I have again, I know I
Oh no,
reiterated this already, but I have met Damon before. Tyler and the rest of the Virtue guys, I'm still, fingers crossed. So hopefully sooner than later. But
it will be.
the next question I have for you, Damon, kind of on the flip side of that, what song do you feel like does not get enough love in the Virtue catalog? Because you guys have a bunch of songs out, but what do you feel like is a sleeper? Like one song that you're like, man, I wish somebody cared about this song just a little bit more.
Oh, that's an interesting one. Let me think, because I feel like I have two. I probably have two answers for
Okay,
this.
shoot, I love it.
So both of them are going to be from What Defines You. One is actually one of our most popular songs, but at the same time, I feel like people kind of sleep on it, and it's called Alone.
Oh yes, oh yeah, that's a good one.
Like the only reason it's weird, like I said, it's one of our most popular songs. It's a song that always goes over well live, but the reaction every time we play it is something where it's like when you listen to it, it's very groovy. It kind of puts you in this like kind of hypnotic trance.
I would
But
agree.
lot but live it has this bounce, it has an energy, like this wall of sound where it's like the breakdown in it, kind of an atypical breakdown. It's more of like a bendy, noodly riff kind of deal. But it's one of those where like it has the sing along, it has the breakdown, it puts you in your feels, it's a very emotive song. So it's one of those where like I feel like it can get lost in the sauce with some of our other like
Sure,
either
yeah.
bigger songs or more high energy ones. But that one, it's always been one of my personal favorites. It as long as I am in this band, it will probably always stay in our set. I will always fight for it no matter what. But that's definitely one. And then there's another deeper cut from that one. It's called Immortal,
Oh
which
yeah.
that was one. It was myself and Josh Schroeder. We were just at the studio one day and just kind of experimenting, just writing some stuff. And it's like, that's one of those ones where it's like, it was just pure creativity. No real preconceived ideas, just noodling around, messing around with a bunch of plugins. And eventually we kind of turned it into this like weird, like industrial kind of, I don't even know how to describe the song, but I just remember showing it to everybody else on my way home from the studio that day, and they were like, "Yeah, whatever this is, you just keep doing that. Like, this sounds awesome. It just sounds like you're in a movie, like,
Oh
you
yeah.
know, like the fight scene of a movie or something like that in space." And we've only played it, I think. Actually, I feel like we've only played it one or two times live, maybe once at our
Wow.
album release show. But again, one of those ones where it's not really like a main single, but every now and then I'll go back and listen to it, and I'm just like, damn, this is awesome. Like, I absolutely love the song and would love to do more stuff like this if the rest of my guys are listening.
I love that. Yeah, no, yeah, Immortal is one that I go back to as well. I kind of have been dipping my toes back in since obviously I was gonna have you on. I was kind of going back and like going down memory lane. I remember reviewing the album and I was just like, this is so like now looking back on it, I'm like, this was such a like gateway album for some people, like in that way. As I know we mentioned it before, but it now looking back on it and like 2019 Brandon like that, it just makes sense. Like now looking at all of the musical journey that you have done, like it just feels like if people hadn't had started out with your band and kind of listening or getting more familiarized with your music in 2019, like I do feel like that kind of brought about that sort of like it's okay to be that like gateway band and try to like encompass like different genres and try to do different things and I definitely appreciated that and again listen to the Sinner EP more currently and it's just cool to see how you guys have changed but also I still feel like you guys have had that sound from what defines you but kind of just like altered it and tried to like change it up and still have that virtue feeling but like taking it up like another notch with each release and like the deluxe version and I feel like with the Sinner EP you just kind of have like slowly iterated in that way but like almost like I kind of compare you guys to like an iPhone. Like you have like the base iPhone, then you have iPhone S. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you
Mhm.
guys take it just up a notch. And while like I don't feel like if you look at it from like jump to jump, you're like, oh, it's not that big. But if you go out and look, you're like, oh shit, like they kind of have changed that much and iterated in that way. But I think that's all part of that evolution, and I'm like I said before, I'm very excited to see what you guys have coming up next, and I think I think you got to pay homage to some of the older songs, so that's why I love asking this question because for me it's like I know what songs that I love from the older catalog, but for people maybe that haven't heard of your band and like want to know what's a song that you haven't listened to yet that in the older catalog that you should give some more love to. I hope that Immortals streams go up after this. So go stream it if you haven't already. Go do it.
Yes.
But the next question, Damon, is a more current one. What are you jamming recently? What's on the Spotify? What have you been listening to lately?
Oh man, not really a whole lot, but it's kind of the same. Like, Sleep Token,
Ooh.
that it's incredible. Like,
It's gonna be
I
nuts.
don't, yeah, it's like Tyler and I, we went to go see them when they were around on that Nothing More in This Moment
Nice.
tour.
Yes.
And one of the like, it's awesome when, because we've known about the band for a while. We had a chance to go see them in 2019. Actually, they were touring with Issues,
Yes. Yes.
but they were 20-minute slot. They're opening, and it's like, unfortunately at that time, as like I had to be an adult, and it's like I have this much money, and it's like I can either go to this show and be completely effed for the rest of the week, or handle my responsibility.
I
Turns
feel
out the
that.
world shut down, and I was like, wow, that sucks. So I just, like, the first chance that we got for them to come around, we were going to see them no matter what. And to be in the crowd and almost have it be kind of like a secret. Like, we're sitting there, like, they're playing, they only play about 6 or 7 songs, but we're singing every lyric, every word, just jamming. And people are looking at us like, who is this band? I'm like, this is the next thing, man.
I
Like,
agree.
between them, Spirit Box, Bad Omens, Nothing More's new record is incredible. Like there's so much good music out, man. Like that's kind of what's been in my rotation personally. But yeah, it's that and new For the Fallen Dreams record, Thing Bangs.
Ooh,
Just had to shout that
a.
out. Yep, came out March 10th. I've been listening to that as well as playing it. But yeah, no, that's kind of what's been in the Spotify list for the heavy jams for me personally.
I gotta agree with you on the Sleep Token. I'm very, very excited for that album when it drops. The only album that I feel like has a chance to dethrone my current favorite right now, which is the new Invent Anime album. I feel like they're the closest that might make it to the top. I know there's a ton of other bands that are going to be releasing stuff this year, but Sleep Token, they have a very good shot of beating out Invent Anime. But I don't know. That's a fantastic album. So if you haven't listened to that one yet, Damon, I would highly recommend checking that one out.
Oh yeah, no, I've seen it's been going around, so it's one of those where I just need a moment, probably even at the gym tonight, to like pop in the headphones and
Oh,
just zone out, kind of see where it takes me.
the gains will be on point. I can tell you that. As someone who has listened to that album and has gone to the gym, it's on point. I gotta say. Um,
Love it.
But the next question I have for you, Damon, is what is your Mount Rushmore of bands? I've been loving asking this question, but what is like the quintessential bands for you?
Ooh, oh, let's think about this because it would differ definitely. Like especially nowadays, my answer would be different. But if I had to go from I wouldn't be here without these bands, it's definitely Thrice. Thrice is
Oh,
number one.
all right.
Yep. Misery Signals is number two. Killswitch Engage is number three.
All right. All right.
And the fourth slot is a hard one because again there were so many bands for varying reasons.
Sure, sure, sure.
Like why I'm here even now. It's like Seven Dust is one of those because when I was younger, it's like I we'll call it just being ignorant. It's like I didn't know much about rock music. I didn't know much about anything else, and it's like when I could look on to MTV. That's how. Again, I'm 35, so that'll let you know.
Yeah, I know. I know. Yeah, all right, all right.
It's you when you hear the radio, you're just like, okay, you paint your own picture of what these people sound like. And I was too young to go get magazines or anything else. So when I saw like a face that looked like mine, I was like, wow, okay, this is what this is. Like this
Yeah.
doesn't sound like stuff that I'm growing up listening to like Motown or anything else. But it's like this, you can be aggressive, but you know be one of us or anything else like that. So like that's one of those. Slipknot, I've never heard a band be as heavy as them
Yeah,
in the mainstream, even like to this day, where it's like they're basically like our generation's Metallica at
I
this
would agree.
point,
Yeah.
you know. Um, and then bands that just get you in the feet. Oh, actually, you know what? I think I might know. I think I might know who I'm going to
You
give
I
this
know who
fourth
it
slot
is. All
to.
right.
Linkin Park.
Oh,
Yeah,
my guy.
I'm gonna.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna give it to them. And it's one of those like I have so many memories attached
Oh
to
yeah.
Hybrid Theory
Oh,
and Meteor that it's like whether it's first getting my license or first days of school or making mixed CDs
oh,
for
oh,
girls that I liked.
yes. Let's
And
go.
I don't know how many times, without or with you in the end and one step closer
Oh.
and just, I'm like, oh, you have to check this. This is the heavy stuff. You need to check this.
I
So
love
yeah,
that.
we'll go with Lincoln Park in the four slot.
Oh, that's what a great last slot. I think it's tough. Yeah, whenever I ask this question, I kind of stir in my seat a little bit because I know this one's a difficult one. So for you to kind of come up with arguably again very similarly to the comments you made about Slipknot being our Metallica, I just feel like Linkin Park's also got to be in that question as well too because they They were one of those bands that I listened to very early on. You know, Hybrid Theory. I just went back and re-listened to Meteora since it turned 20, which made me feel incredibly old. But also so stoked that they're able to celebrate that. Obviously, Chester, love Chester as well. Um, but it just like I was talking in a previous interview, and I was just saying how timeless that album is. It was like so before its time. Like that band collectively did stuff that if you heard it now, you'd be like, "Oh, this just fits. It just fits in the type of music now." So I feel like they were very much that trendsetter band and continue to just impress me. I loved listening to the new song "Lost." That one just
Yeah.
my heart it just sank. So I love that. But great choice. But it gave me a good question for you, Damon, because I feel like I have to ask, being in this band and showing the representation that you show, like how much does that mean to you? Because you did mention Seven Dust as being one of that bands to be, to show you that, like, yeah, this person looks just like me, is making music that's like not the atypical what you think about, when you think those things. So how does that feel for you to have that sort of representation and maybe showing that, being that representation for someone else that sees a virtue and is like, oh man, Damon looks just like me. That's so sick. Like that's awesome. And I feel like the conversation around that has changed since, obviously I know Seven Dust has been around for a while. But I feel like that conversation and just people in general, I think, have been a little bit more just willing to be whoever they want to be, and I think that that's awesome, and we're not showing any sort of inclusive nature to the alternative music. But wanted to ask how much that means to you to show that sort of representation in like the hard rock, like metalcore community.
Well, it means a lot, man. It's one of those where like it might not be like a conscious thing,
Hmm.
but it's always we are aware, I am aware of kind of going back to what I was talking about with Sinner of just like sometimes you could be a person's first foray into whatever world that you occupy.
Sure. Yeah.
And especially nowadays, like I feel like there's less barriers to like when it comes to race, when it comes to religion,
Hmm.
gender, anything else, especially within heavy music. But there are still some qualities where it's like it is still dominated by this or dominated by this. And every now and then when you can look up and see, I can just go like, myself, Mike with he's, Mexican, you have
Hmm.
Ryan and his background, Tyler and his back. It's like we are kind of like a melting pot in our own right.
Oh yeah,
So
I would
where
agree.
when people can see us and they go, "Oh, okay, I would have never maybe thought about that, but now that I see it, it's like it makes you rethink maybe how rock or metal or just anything else in your life can be put together or assembled, or just looking at people if you've had biases, if you've had, certain behaviors or anything else that you've had to unlearn. Like that's kind of like the I would say more unspoken aspect of this is like it's not so much how I guess how I feel, but it's like there are learned behaviors that growing up
Yeah.
from like there are things that we come from a time where it was acceptable to say certain things and it's not cool to say those anymore because you realize how damaging they can be to certain communities or certain things.
Sure. Yeah.
And instead of fueling the fire for those or continuing to just fight to hold on to these kind of like outdated things, be a pioneer, be a champion for those, be a champion for women, be a champion for, the LGBTQ communities, be a champion for more black, brown, Latino, whoever else artists in the spaces that you occupy. I feel like being more progressive, being a part of moving things forward, that's always going to be something that's important to me. Whether I don't want to say it's a conscious decision or not, it's kind of ingrained in who I am and how we conduct ourselves. So it'll always be there. It's something that we hold on to dearly, and hopefully people take that and realize like, oh, okay, even if you don't like the music but you like what we have to say, it's like you can at least pass that on, and maybe that just inspires somebody else in its own way. It doesn't have to necessarily be the music. It's more about putting that positive energy into the world, putting what you want to see more of out there, and seeing what kind of fruits can come out of it. So
No, I would 1,000% agree with that. I think I think it's just a lot of kudos to you guys, and I know it's not like intentionally like you put all of these people in your band for those specific reasons, you know, because I feel like that question I imagine comes up in that type of conversation. But I appreciate the kind of effort that you guys do in terms of unintentionally kind of championing those things. Like as myself as being an Asian American, like I want to make sure that somebody that watches my interviews is like, "Oh, that guy does it. Like he looks just like me. That's sick." Like I don't have anything special to offer. I just want people to understand that I love this type of music and I want to be able to share that experience with other people. So if someone happens to look like me and is like, "Oh, man, that's so cool. Brandon's really like, showing this band off," or like, big salute to Ryan, like, part of the Asian fam. Like, it's such a cool thing that I feel like I need to like output more to more people, or like the LGBT community, or like whatever you subscribe to. Like, I want to make sure that I am trying to put those people out there because I feel like they deserve it. Not that anyone else doesn't deserve it any more or less, but I think it's just like, it's like these people are underappreciated within this type of music, and you want to be able to show that love when you can. So, I feel like I like asking this question because I want to show that appreciation for, what a Virtue does, and any other band that kind of champions those things, because I think it's an important aspect, and I think it brings a lot of healthy aspects to the scene as a collective, because like we're we should be that type of scene that doesn't exclude anyone. That's like people come here because we are outcasts. So I feel like we need to live by those kind of rules where it doesn't matter what you really subscribe to, as long as you champion for better things for other people, then that's the most important thing, I would argue,
abs- absolutely, no, I can't agree with you more, man.
But the next question I have for you, Damon, because we did got a little deep, but I love that. I wanted to know how you guys went about finding Ryan, because I feel like there's not been a lot of talk about that. He's a fantastic drummer. I've been following his stuff for quite a bit now. How was that kind of conversation started? How did that all kind of come to be? Because he's a fantastic drummer, and I feel like you guys you picked up a real gem. So how did that whole ball get rolling for that?
That was I would say a product of COVID in a weird way. Like
Oh
I know
wow. Okay.
yep, he and Tyler had been in contact before, and we didn't have a drummer at the time, and there was just some back and forth. I think some management also got involved, where it's like everybody, they've seen his videos, and you know, he was still kind of like in the infancy of like what he's doing now. Like the stuff that dude has gone on to
Yeah.
do, it's insane. Like I could have
Kudos.
never predicted that, but it's awesome to see his growth and to be a small part of it, be able to kind of like help introduce him to some aspects of the touring world, of how like kind of like the music industry in our scene works.
Sure. Yeah.
And in turn, it's like, again, he's a hard worker, and it was just one of those where, like I said, we had some correspondence back and forth, and as we were getting into writing newer stuff, it was like, well, he lives in Canada, that could be an issue, but at the same time, he was showing us a willingness to be like, hey, I want to make this work. I realize that this might not be the easiest thing, but it's like I'm willing to put in the time, the effort, and as long as you guys are willing to match the energy, then we can make it happen. And at that point, I was like, you know what? This might be it. This might be the match that we needed, and so far so good. So Ryan, if you hear this, keep it up, buddy.
Love that. Yeah, Ryan, salutes. You're crushing it, man. I love that. That's awesome. And then, it's always those kind of unique stories that continues to just, impress me about your band, the like adversity that you guys face in just kind of coming out on top. You love to see it. So, always a cool thing. But the last question I have for you, Damon, my personal favorite, I've been asking this a lot in regards to my interviews. Um, why do you love music so much? Why is this a passion of yours? Because realistically, you could be doing anything else with your time. You know, you're with For the Fallen Dreams, you're with Of Virtue, you know, like you do a bunch of stuff within music, and um sometimes those things can take a toll on you. I know for me personally, it's happened before, you know, especially during COVID. But you know, why? What kind of fuels your fire to continue to do music and create and you know release it out to everyone to kind of check out?
Uh, for me, this is just these are my feelings, my emotions. It's an outlet so that I can keep myself on track. It's a discipline this is music has been one of the hardest, most challenging, but most rewarding things that I've, been able to pursue in my life. Like my past is not perfect. I've gotten into a lot of trouble. I've, had issues with drugs and alcohol and everything else, anger issues. And it was one of these things where, like, at some point in time, you have to make a choice in life if you're just going to let that consume you or you're going to find another outlet for it. And with like my personality type, it's like when I'm in something, like I'm in it and it can consume me for better or for worse. It just
Feel
kind of
that?
is
Yeah.
what it is, you know. But in this case of just music in general, it's provided me like my best friends, a means of traveling the world, of seeing new things, introducing myself to different cultures, and just that alone, being able to talk to different people, being able to immerse myself in so many different platforms and things, it'll never get old. It's something that like I cannot imagine my life without it. And if I can't imagine my life without it, that just means it's that important to me. Whether I'm playing, performing, creating, whatever else, wherever it takes me, we're just going to see what happens from there. But, I need it honestly as, we'll call it, water or air or anything else. Because otherwise, if we're speaking frankly, it's like with some of my past decision making, man, I might be in jail. I might not be on this earth. So, you know,
Yeah,
just what
no.
it is.
And I appreciate you sharing that because like you know a lot of those things are you know big things to talk about. So you know I appreciate you're still with us. You're still creating music. You know, obviously blessings ahead because I feel like for me like those are the things that kind of drive me to continue to interview because like I think that you know, during COVID time, I was like, you know, it's really stressed out. You know, I think it was something that I kind of pushed myself to the limit because you know, want to see bands do well. But I also had to kind of have a self reflective moment where very much like you know, when you are in it, you're in it, you know, and so I feel like for myself, like I had to have that moment of reflection and be like, I love doing this, but like I have to be careful about how hard I go, you know, because that could just push me to the brink. And and so I got to appreciate your story for what it is too because you know, you wouldn't have been here if music didn't kind of save you in that way. I know everybody kind of talks about it and you know, it might lose its meaning, but that's the truth. Like I think a lot of the reasons why people enjoy this type of music is because it's so direct and so like in your face and it doesn't ask for apologies or anything. It just tells you how it is and I think it hits that part of your soul and your chest that I feel like other musics doesn't really do in that sort of way. You know, there's a level of honesty that you have with yourself when you listen to this type of music and the types of people that you know, you go to see at shows and they're like, "This literally saved my life." And I think that we kind of discount it in that way, but it's true. I think you know there's a lot of people that probably are saved by your music and a whole host of other bands, and so you know I don't want to discredit it by any stretch because I think it's awesome and obviously again, Damon, blessings to you because I know you're gonna keep killing it. A Virtue has been doing awesome, and I'm hoping that For the Falling Dreams is you know coming around. I feel like they're gonna be in my neck of the woods, so I'm gonna be seeing you. Fingers crossed, hopefully this year. But Damon, thank you for joining me. Wanted to do the final bit here, which is tell the people where they can find Of Virtue at, what you guys have coming up in the next couple months, and anything else you would like to share about the band.
You can find us. We actually have a real website, which is a virtue
Oh, I
faith.
saw that. I saw that. You guys are moving up in the world. I love it.
Ofvirtueband.com. You can go there and literally find any of our tour dates. You can find us on Spotify, Twitter, Instagram. All that's just at Of Virtue. TikTok again at Of Virtue. Anywhere, YouTube, type in the name and you'll find everything. Anxiety, Cannibals, Sinner EP. It's all there if you know how to use a phone or a computer. Some people don't.
That's fair. You're right. But love that. Again, want to give a huge shouts to Ollie. I hope I can say Ollie. I don't know. Sometimes people with their names,
Yeah.
I don't, I don't like to use a nickname, but I feel like he's hasn't corrected me yet. So I'm just gonna say it's a good green thumbs up. But huge shout outs to him. He was the one who got me on Of Virtue in the first place. So without him, they wouldn't have been on the channel. I probably would never have met Demon. So it comes full circle. So I love it. But please go check out Of Virtue. You already know I've done album reviews of them. I've done other interviews with them. I've done reaction videos. I don't know what lies in the future, but they're going to be on the channel more. So you should really kind of just, give them a subscribe. Go follow them on Spotify so you don't miss out on a
Yes.
new song
Yes.
that drops. You want to be the first to listen to it. You want to be the envy of all your friends. You should go follow them on Spotify. I've already done it. So, I'm in a cool club. So if you want to be a part of a cool club, you do that. But please go follow them. Links in the description. Go check out their newest songs, Cannibals and Anxiety. They're both bangers, if you ask me. So please go give them some love. If you enjoyed this interview, share, like, and subscribe. It goes a long way. And huge thanks to Damon for coming on. It's been a blast.
Hey, my man, I appreciate you as always.